everybody, it's time for a stance lesson. I hope you're excited. Stances never sound exciting. We like to punch, we like to kick and break boards. Stances are probably the one thing in Taekwondo where students will roll their eyes like, oh, do we have to practice stances? Stances are really important because the things that we do like to do, punches, kicks, they need balance and stability. Stances help provide that. So, here we go. We're especially going to be focusing today on front stance and sparring stance, but I'll run through all of them. I've got some tape on the floor. Can you see it? Some railroad, kind of looks like railroad tracks. This is something you might want to do at home if you have some painter's tape or some way to mark on the floor. Ask your parents first, kids. Don't put things on the floor without asking. Here we go. So I'm going to go over here on my painter's tape. We're going to start with our front stance. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 foot lengths forward on my little railroad tracks. And I'm going to bend my front knees so I can barely see my big toe. My feet match the direction of my railroad tracks. Why this is called a front stance? Well, because everything should point forward. My toes point forward. My hips point forward. My shoulders point forward. As soon as something starts to turn sideways, it becomes a different stance. So what I would like all of you to be doing at home is to hold a stance. Just hold it. Count to about 30 seconds and not move. Because what that's doing is it's training your muscles. It's called muscle memory. And you may feel a stretch in your calf muscle. You might feel some strengthening happening in that front leg. And this is a really important process. So if you just hold that stance and don't move, it's really, really good for you. Okay, so after you've done that for about 30 seconds, of course, you gotta do that on the other side. So stand on your railroad tracks and go 1, 2, 3, bend your knee, and just hold it. Don't move. Okay? If you are not able to put tape down in your home, not everybody maybe will do that. You can still measure that out without any tape. And the way you can do that is just starting out with your feet shoulder width, without even having markings on the floor. You can kind of see that your feet, if they point straight forward, will be in a front stance. If you're pointing your feet straight ahead, they're going to be in line with your hips. That's just how our bodies are built. So as long as all your toes are going the right way, and your hips and your shoulders and your nose, everything points forward, you're going to be good. That's a front stance. Okay? Front stances happen when we do a lot of our back arm techniques, because that front leg is strong for us. We can go full power. A front stance is great out of a forward technique like a front kick or a crescent kick, something like that. That's where you're going to see a lot of front stances. Okay? If you have any questions on that, just contact me. Okay, practice those a lot. You can start adding in punches and kicks once you feel really good about that stance. So when you do that, go ahead and do your technique, but every once in a while, stop. Check your feet, make sure everything points forward. Okay? All right, so we're going to go on to the next one, which is going to be the middle stance. The middle stance is everything sideways. So, I'm putting both feet on my, just on the one railroad track. Your feet need to line up. Okay? I'm about shoulder width and a half. Maybe not quite 2 shoulder widths out. Okay, so I'm going to bend my knees and I'm going to sink back into it. I want a nice straight back. I don't want to bend forward or, I don't even know how you would bend back, but maybe somebody does. And I kind of watch for my knees. I make sure my knees come out and not, look at this, it just looks ridiculous, right? You know that's not good for you. So you want your knees pointed out. So if you have the markings on your floor, just go on one railroad track, line up your heels, make sure your toes point ahead, and sit in that stance. And you can start with 30 seconds, but maybe try to build up to a minute and a half of just sitting in that middle stance. Adults, you might even want to go longer. Okay, so that's middle stance. We do things like our knife hands in the middle stance. It's a really great setup for our side kicks and round kicks, because our hip is usually in place when we're in that middle stance position. So Awesome. Okay, sparring stance is next. This is the one we probably talk about the least. It's a very neutral stance, and it usually is about second nature to people. If I'm watching their front stances and back stances, a lot of times they default into a sparring stance without the student really knowing it. So, it's still good to know how to do it precisely. So if I'm in a front stance and all my toes point forward, to get into our sparring stance, I just turn my feet a little bit and make my weight neutral. What that means is I have just as much weight on my back leg as I do on my front leg. Okay, they're pretty equal here. You may have a little more on the back leg, just a little bit. Okay, so I'm very comfy here. Sparring stance, you should feel like you can move quickly. You should feel balanced and stable. Okay, sparring stances happen a lot when we do our scissor guards, whether it's open or closed. Even our drag guards like we have in discipline form in the second half. We do a drag guard after our side kick. Okay, that's in the sparring stance. So pay attention to those as you go. Okay, so the last one we're going to do is a back stance. And a lot of back stances end up looking like sparring stances, so please practice this very mindfully. When we're doing a back stance, our heels are almost lined up. So I have one foot on my railroad track and the other one just maybe 2 inches off. So we are making kind of a letter L with our feet. My back foot points straight out and my front foot points straight ahead. About 70% of my weight is on my back leg. Kids, if you don't know what that means, just lean back a little bit, you'll probably get it right. Okay? So most of my weight is on my back leg and I can pick that front foot up really easily. Try that. Pick up your front foot easily. If not, you probably have too much weight on it. Okay, so that's our back stance. When we do the knife hand at the beginning of discipline form, that's in the back stance. If you're a higher ranked student watching this, you probably know which moves are in the back stance in your form. Please pay attention to your weight. Make sure that weight stays back. And some moves are deceptive because I feel like they're coming forward, so we want to put weight on that front leg. That weight needs to stay back. And it's defensive. We're keeping our body away. Okay, if you have any questions about those stances, you know how to get a hold of me. Practice those a lot. I've been judging tournaments for almost 30 years. And a lot of times what makes or break a student, the difference maybe between first place and third place, is often the stances. It can be a tiebreaker in forms. I might watch their stances. A lot of judges do that. So practice like crazy. It's really good for strengthening your legs, and you'll not regret it, trust me. Thanks, and good luck practicing those.